Hello and welcome back to another video. In this video, I wanted to talk about the preparation of the body and mind for meditation. This is something that is ignored by a lot of people around the world in different religions, in different spiritual traditions, in different circles and different forms that spirituality has taken. They do not consider the body as a vehicle for the soul. They do not prepare the body, they do not prepare the mind, they do not prepare their heart for spiritual practices, and they simply want to do the spiritual practices for this glimpse of whatever it is that they want to happen during meditation. Man is very thirsty for peace and requires happiness instantly, and he is ready to do whatever it takes, even if it comes to disregard the body at the cost of health, cost of anything, just to feel a few moments of happiness or a few moments of bliss. Now, this is true when it comes to indulgences in alcohol, tobacco, and all these other kinds of drugs that we have here, but it is also true in the spiritual circles. It's not really considered. If we look at the mental hospitals, especially in India, we see that people are mad for religious reasons, and they do not know how to deal with such people. They do not know how to deal with the mad people, especially those people, those intoxicated ones who are intoxicated by God. There is a systematic method that needs to be followed when it comes to do such practices like meditation, prayer, and other forms of spiritual practices. And this preparation for these practices is also need to be learned or get educated by some people. Now, this wisdom of preparation for meditation is not and cannot be found in many religions. That is why they lead to delusions and they lead to a lot of misconceptions about the state that they achieve during meditation through those practices. Instead of actually cultivating harmony among the people, it creates conflict and it creates a lot of psychological and mental issues. This can be seen if we look at history and if we look at how man has always tried to impose religion and spiritual practices upon others. Now, when a man is in a state of higher consciousness, he is in a state of consciousness which is independent on the practice that he is following. The practice, the meditation practice, or the tradition he is in has nothing to do with this state. For example, when you are angry, you produce angry thoughts. When you are happy, you produce happy thoughts. When you are in a state of contentment, you produce contented thoughts. But it is wrong to say that a certain state is due to these thoughts. You cannot reverse engineer it. You have to make yourself achieve this state somehow and not Give importance to the boat or the ship that carried you towards that state. There are many religions and spiritual traditions in the world. Each of them have their own wisdom, their own language, their own practices, their own rituals, and whatnot. They have their own cultures that are built around these spiritual practices. They have their own thoughts about certain things. They have their own political system that are developing through these spiritual traditions. The problem here is the manifestation, the thought, and the ideas. The state of consciousness has nothing to do with all these thoughts and these ideas. Understanding and recognizing this is the first step towards liberation, towards actual liberation, even from religions and even from spiritual practices, from all kinds of meditation practices. Understanding that a state of consciousness is it is not produced by a practice. It is the practitioner who is producing such a state. For example, an athletic or a person who runs or does a creative act knows that he falls into a flow state and is completely ecstatic by the work or by the action that he or she is doing, that he is somehow lost, and after he comes back out of this flow state, it is tremendously enjoyable. Now, you cannot really say an athletic to do a creative act or to do something else to produce the flow state. The athletic knows that he will be able to create this flow state inside his consciousness by doing that act, running, for example. Similarly, a painter will only be able to access that flow state through his own craft, that is, painting. It is wrong to impose painting upon an athletic, or it is wrong to tell a painter to run. This is the stupidity that we are all in different spiritual traditions. The different people of all the spiritual traditions are trying to impose because they have nothing to do. They have nothing else to do. And in order to spread their wisdom, what they are trying to do is they are trying to spread these methods or these practices through their own wisdom, through their own knowledge. This spreading usually is done by egoistical people. It is not done by people who are actually compassionate or who have reached the final attainment of all these practices. If it is done by such a person who is compassionate, then it is acceptable, and such a person who is compassionate will never impose it upon anybody else. He will know how to respond and deal with the different minds that are in this world, the different people who have held different ideologies. He will know how to deal with them, how to respond to them, because he himself has gone through all of that. His acts will be based on pure compassion. Yet, a lot of spiritual traditions do not follow this. They go through a system, an education system, and they produce priests. They produce lecturers and professors who are no doubt well versed in all these practices, in all these rituals, and in all these systems of thought that are in a religion. And these priests, it is their purpose to go and give lectures, and there are people who are supposed to follow them. And they do that, exactly. But they have not attained the final truths. They have not attained even a higher state of consciousness where they realize that they are not the body and the mind. This leads to a lot of conflict because first, they are not prepared for such a state of consciousness, and their preparation of the body and mind is not proper. They have not gone through a proper system, they have gone through a system that is created by people are of less intelligence, who are of less spiritual intelligence. They have experienced something that is true, but they are not rationally sane to devise judgments and to reduce the experience to the cause of the experience. The cause of everything in this world is consciousness, and it is independent of all the practices that you will do. It is independent of all the culture, the tradition that you follow, and everything else in the world that is surrounding this state of consciousness. So, coming back to the topic of preparation of the body and mind. So, the conflicts that I mentioned earlier about the religious and the spiritual traditions are conflicts that are of certainly of a higher kind, but there are also conflicts and problems in not preparing the body and mind for some spiritual practices, like meditation, for example. When you prepare this temple of this temple called the body in which your soul resides, when you prepare it for a higher state of consciousness, the descent of consciousness, the descent of the higher divine being will be easier into your body. If you do not prepare your body and mind, your whole nervous system will be affected. Your body will be affected, your mind will be affected, your emotions will be fluctuating everywhere. I see that a lot of people teach pranayama or breathing exercises, and they do intense kind of meditation to produce these cheap, blissful states. They do all kinds of even they do all kinds of stressful meditation practices that lead them towards this state, this blissful state for only a few moments, but they do not understand the deeper consequences of such acts. When when you need to actually be prepared for meditation, even for japa or even for zikr, for all kinds of repetition of mantras or different shlokas, you need to be prepared for that. You need to prepare your body, your mind, your environment, your whole circle of family should be in tune with what you are doing, and then you should be able to meditate. There are so many pranayama practices that can, of course, give you this momentary peace, but they will have effects on your body and on your nervous system. This is important to understand because there is an actual method to this. There is an actual system that needs to be followed progressively, and your whole body and mind be involved in this system and practice, and then eventually you will be prepared for meditation. You will be prepared to sit and concentrate and go into those flow states that you truly desire. So, before getting into any kind of practice, even meditation practice, it is better that you also do yoga practices. You also do breathing exercises that are relevant to maintaining the health of the body, maintaining the health of your mind, and then get into meditation. It will also be easier for you to follow and go into the flow states. A lot of religious traditions do not follow this method. They do not have the preparatory phase of the aspirant. especially when a person is new to such spiritual practices. He or she wants to simply indulge in practices without knowing the context, without going through the preparatory phases. So I just wanted to mention that a whole amount of preparation is needed for meditation. Otherwise, there are chances that you will be affected neurotically, affected physically, affected mentally, emotionally. And so, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to watch my other videos on topics like spirituality and philosophy.